Today on Living in the Word, we're talking multiple wives, violence, and forgiveness. Hey everybody, Matt Stedham here. Thank you so much for joining me on Living in the Word today. We're going to be looking at the question that I get more than anything else when it comes to the Old Testament is, why did God want multiple wives in the Old Testament but not in the New Testament? And that question is a little bit twisted. You see, God never wanted multiple wives. Now, to look at this through a Christian perspective, and I'm a Christian, I want to look at it through what Jesus says about marriage. Now, when Jesus is asked a question about marriage, he goes back to Genesis before the fall. And it's that passage where the two will become one flesh, if you remember that. For this reason, a man will leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife. The two will become one. That's Jesus's ideal. That's God's ideal, that the two become one, not the three become one or the five become one or however many else you can wrangle into your harem. That's not the ideal. The ideal is two, a man and a woman becoming one flesh. Now, the first multiple marriage that we get in the Bible is a guy named Lamech. Now, Lamech is a very violent figure in Genesis chapter 4. And he uses Cain as an example. If you remember, Cain kills his brother Abel because he's jealous of him. He's jealous of the offering that he's offering at worship time. And so Cain is not a great guy to mirror your life after, and Lamech is way worse than Cain ever could imagine to be. So Lamech in Genesis chapter 4, verse 23 and following has this little poem to his wives who he collects like property, and he tells them, look, if God will avenge Cain's death 7 times, well, I killed a guy just for wounding me, and so may I be avenged 77 times. You pick up on that? Not 7 times, 77 times. I'm going to be way more violent than Cain ever thought about it, so don't mess with me. That's Lamech's ideal. So you already get a kind of idea that maybe he's not the best role model if you're trying to pattern your life after somebody. Now, in Matthew chapter 18, Jesus is asked this question about forgiveness. And Peter says, should I forgive somebody who sins against me 7 times? And Jesus says, no, not 7 times. I tell you, 77 times. It's the same phrase that Lamech uses, where Lamech says, if violence comes in 7 times, I'm going to be 77 times violent. Jesus says, if you want to forgive somebody 7 times, no, go be 77 times more forgiving. You notice that Jesus is like the anti-Lamech. And so as a Christian, if we're trying to follow Jesus, we're going to be like him. We're not going to be like Lamech. Lamech is not somebody you want to take cues from. Now, here's another idea about marriage in the Bible, okay? Give me one example of a multiple marriage in the Bible that doesn't turn out bad. It's a real simple thing. Go look for everybody in the Bible who has more than one wife and see where that works out well. If you want to go with Abraham and the idea with Hagar and Sarah, it doesn't work out well. Ishmael's descendants and Isaac's descendants, they're still fighting today. That didn't work out well. How about multiple marriages with King David? Well, his wives and their sons wind up fighting over his kingdom after it's over. I mean, we could stand here all day long and look at all these multiple marriages, and when you see at the end of the day that none of them work out well, maybe it's a good cue to do it God's way. Which again is exactly why Jesus jumps us back to the Garden of Eden before the fall. The two should become one flesh. That's God's ideal. No, God didn't like for people to disobey him and have multiple wives. He doesn't like for us to disobey him today in a number of ways. He wants us to do it his way. So that's my encouragement to you today. Don't be violent 77 times. Be forgiving 77 times. And don't rack up relationships like Lamech. Do it the way that Jesus said. 2 become 1. That's Living in the Word for today. I hope you liked the video. I hope you learned something or got to think about Scripture a little bit different way. If you did, don't forget to like, share, subscribe so that you get these next ones, and we'll see you next time on Living in the Word.